Hey everybody, I wanted to share a little bit today about something called the rule of life. I'm going to send you an initial link to another video that does a great job of doing an overview of the concept. But I wanted to share a little bit about my 2 cents on this particular topic. So when I first heard about the rule of life, the first word obviously is rule, and so I was freaked out because I'm not too good with rules. It's not that I don't want to follow the rules. I'm just not very good at following rules. I'm not very structured or disciplined, and so I tend to break rules more often than I'd like. And I immediately thought of the word ruler, which is a tool that's used to measure whether you fall short of a standard or you meet a certain standard. And so I was pretty sure I was going to fall short of the standard. But then I realized that a ruler is also a guide. It is something that you use if you can't draw a straight line like me. You use it to be able to draw a straight line and to draw what you want to draw. And so the rule of life is more like a guide than it is a tool for measuring where you come up short. It's something that can be used to create the life that you want to create and that God is calling you to create. In the video that I send you, the speaker is going to share about this term regla, where the original language for rule of life comes from. And he says that regla is literally translated as trellis. And the thing about trellises is that you need different kinds of trellises for different purposes. And so different trellises will be shaped differently depending on what you use them for. So let's say you have a bench and you need a shady spot to sit in that bench and read. You might build an arbor over the bench so that you have some shade. And you'll plant your climbing rose or your vine and ask it to, or tease it into growing over in this arch shape to create the shade that you need. If you're growing grapes, you're going to build a trellis that is more spread out and allow the grapevine to sprawl so that it can get some good air circulation and the fruit can get some good sun exposure so that disease doesn't grow and ruin the fruit, and the fruit grows nice and juicy. If you have a small garden, you might have a wall that you place a trellis up against so that you can actually train an apple or a pear tree and train its branches to grow flat up against the wall so that you can still enjoy some fruit without sacrificing what little space that you have. So as you can see, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, the trellis is going to look different from situation to situation. And likewise, we as unique creations in Christ, with unique callings from Christ, are going to need different rules of life. We're going to need different trellises. And even within a person's life, for example, for me, my rule of life as a stay-at-home mom is going to look very different than my rule of life as an empty nester. Because I'm going to sense different callings and want to accomplish different things with God in God's kingdom, and therefore I'm going to need to create and be formed and shaped into a different kind of person for a different season. So at Fuller, we use something called the CIQ, the Central Integration Question, which you may have watched a previous video on, as the initial tool to discern where God is calling us to. So what we do with the CIQ is then we use that as a launching pad to discuss our rule of life. The rule of life then can be a question of what habits and exercises do I need to instill in my life in order to be shaped and formed into the kind of person that would best fulfill the calling that I am discerning. So if I'm discerning a calling to work with urban youth, my rule of life is going to look different than maybe someone who is being called to work with marketplace leaders. And what we are invited to do with the rule of life is to sit with God and to reflect and to talk with God and ask, what kind of person do I need to be? And what kinds of habits or steps would create in me the characteristics of the kind of person that would best fulfill that calling? So I hope this helps you understand the rule of life a little bit better. It makes it a little bit less intimidating. As always, I find that the spiritual disciplines are filled with much more grace than we initially realize. And the rule of life is no exception. Blessings on you as you discern how you are going to build that trellis. I hope you have fun with it.